Yo, 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 yo. What's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman?
Mr. Weedman?
How the hell are you?
A little beat up this week. A little
Yeah.
beat up.
Yes, you are. We're gonna talk about that here in a minute, but hopefully all you out there are smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. I'm only smoking tonight. Mrs. Weedman's going to tell you a little story. It's story time, all you burners, stoners, and potheads out there. And I would not say it's a happy story, but it does have a happy ending. So,
Happy endings are good.
happy endings are good. Very good. Mrs. Weedman coming up.
Hey.
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 Hey. Little tickle from Mr. Weedman. I love it. So I'm smoking Nightmare OG. And while I'm smoking and getting baked, I'll tell you about, I think I've talked about this strain before in a prior episode, but I'll talk about it in a second. But I'm going to let Mrs. Weedman tell you about a story. And as you all know, Mrs. Weedman had a procedure last week. And then I'm going to let Mrs. Weedman take it over. So tell them everything, Mrs. Weedman, why I smoked this Nightmare OG.
Well, we've had a rather wild weekend, and not wild in a fun-loving way, wild in a near-death kind of way. I, as I've mentioned before, have a rare condition, medical condition. I don't think I've ever said the name of it, but it is called, it's advanced systemic mastocytosis. And what that is a bone marrow disorder, or some doctors refer to it as a mast cell disorder. Ultimately, it is a mast cell disorder. The condition has to do with the cells in my bone marrow, kind of like leukemia. It can progress to leukemia, but most oftentimes it does not. It's just a chronic illness. Just in recent years, very recent years, like last year, there became a new medication for it, and then maybe the other medication has been around for about 3 years. Most doctors don't know what it is, how to treat it, what to do with it. They just look at me like, what? The symptoms of the condition have been around since I was about 18, and finally last year I was diagnosed with the condition. So it's been kind of a wild ride of a lot of testing. And through that testing, of course, there's other discoveries, one of which was a nodule in my stomach. So last year I had an EGD, and it was a guided EGD with an ultrasound, and to evaluate this growth in my stomach. And a nodule is essentially a small tumor, until they get to be a certain size, they're called a nodule, and then they become a tumor. So it was benign as of last year, so this was just going to be this year a repeat procedure. They wanted to reevaluate in a year. So last week we talked about my stopping cannabis for the week. I had to stop my medication for my condition as well. So for 5 days prior to my condition, or prior to the procedure, I was not using anything. I was miserable when it came to bedtime.
You couldn't sleep.
I did not sleep all week, and I was rather looking forward to anesthesia. I really was. I was like, I am going to have a really great sleep. I'm not going to know anything that's happening in the world. Great. So flash forward, Thursday comes, procedure goes fine. They send me home. It's an outpatient procedure. They were just going back in to reevaluate. They thought they would try to remove, they being a doctor, she thought that she would be able to remove this nodule. She asked if I would be okay with it. And I said, yeah, if that means I don't have to do this again, let's just remove it if it's possible. Well, post-procedure, she said I was not able to remove it. We tried, couldn't do it, but we took some more biopsies. Things look pretty good, but we'll wait for pathology and we'll let you know how things go. Sends me home. I get home. And I take a nap because I was under full anesthesia. I'm tired. I rested. And part of my condition is pretty obnoxious acid reflux. And because I hadn't been taking my medication, the acid reflux was really bad. So my nap post, anesthesia was not as great as I expected it to be. It was a lot of tossing and turning. Went on with my day, got up, was feeling relatively okay. I had to follow up on some work stuff from my day job, and had to, make some dinner. Made a very simple, hardly made dinner. It was semi-prepared food.
Ramen. You made ramen.
But I doctored it up.
Yes.
I made good ramen. And then got back to the computer. We had a conference call for some stuff for the podcast. I had a couple emails to do for work. And then all of a sudden it was just kind of like, I feel like I'm getting the flu. Everything feels achy. Now I've experienced anesthesia. I've had a lot of medical testing done. I know what I feel like after anesthesia. I didn't feel that way. I felt weird. I just felt like I remember verbally saying, I have hit my wall. I just need to go to bed. So we go up, do our...
And still no cannabis.
Yeah, still no cannabis because of the anesthesia. Nothing, right? So I know I'm going to have another shitty night of sleep and toss and turn all night long and be up and down and menopause with my night sweats. I mean, it's just a hot mess, right? I'm throwing covers off, sweating, pulling covers on, freezing, waking up because I've got reflux, falling back asleep. I mean, it's this stupid cycle. And cannabis, I will tell you, has been my godsend. My medication helps with the reflux, but not to the degree that, cannabis is definitely, I would say, part of my medicine. It helps me get through the day, or the evening, I should say. So get to bed, can't sleep, tossing, turning. We're laughing like, oh, this is what 50 is. Like, this is it. We're 50. We don't get to sleep. We just sit here and we're just going to toss and turn all night long.
I was up with you.
Stare at the walls.
Laughing.
Yeah.
I was cracking jokes to keep your mind off the acid reflux.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. And the acid reflux was just killing me. Well, maybe literally, almost. And so finally, things got silent. Probably around 2 a.m., we both fell into somewhat of a sleep. And then around 4, I awoke. I was like, oh, I think I just need to pee. Whatever. I tried to make my way down to the bathroom. I didn't feel quite right going to the bathroom. Felt a little weird, kind of surreal. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. This is new. And while sitting on the toilet, I passed out. And I remember sitting there and everything in front of me looking kind of like a galaxy. Things were kind of lit up and circling, and it wasn't like fainting. It was very different. I don't know what was happening. And then I woke up and we have like a little alcove where the toilet is, and I was kind of on the toilet still, but my body kind of had fallen into the wall. Like I was leaning on the wall, and my hands were all kind of crimped up and stiff. I'm like, something isn't right. I just have to go back to bed. I just have to sleep this off. So I tried to leave the bathroom, and when I got outside of the bathroom, I collapsed. And I was like, oh shit, something's really not right. Okay. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I think I'm going to vomit. So I turned around to go back into the bathroom, and it was literally, this is maybe as a little forewarning, this is going to maybe get a little gory. I just projectile vomited, and it was just blood. It was dark blood all over the place. And then I felt like it was just going to keep coming. So now I'm like crawling through all of this mess to get back to the toilet to just keep projectile vomiting. Whew. And then I sat back up on the toilet, and just the projectile vomiting kept coming. And Mr. Weedman came flying down the stairs. He heard me, comes flying down, and it just looks like a murder scene. I mean, for some reason, I just so clearly remember everything, even though there was kind of this surreal feeling about it all. Like it was kind of out of body, but I just remember everything. And so then I'm back slumped over the toilet, and I'm just covered in all this blood. And I'm like, no, don't call the insurance. Like, don't call the 911. Just call my doctor. And Mr. Weedman's like, no, this is an emergency. We're calling 911 in a much more panicked voice, I'll tell you. And this was happening a lot faster maybe than I'm telling it. Long story short, paramedics come, and at this point, Mr. Weedman has me kind of situated outside the bathroom, but with the bathroom garbage can just inside the bathroom door because it's tile, and I'm continuing to just vomit, and it's all just blood, and this garbage can is filling, and I don't know, like, what the frick is happening? And then the paramedics come in and they just are like bug-eyed and kind of jaw-dropped. And are like, they look around. Wait a minute, what is going on here?
I don't know if you remember this, but I think this is me telling you what was going on with the paramedics, because they were
just staring.
They were in shock.
They didn't really even. They didn't know where to start.
I looked at all of them, like, all of a sudden, like, are you guys going to do something?
Yeah.
Are you going to do something?
There were two guys, and they were just like starstruck. Like, what the fuck is happening? Like, did someone get shot? Like, what is happening here? So they wanted me to kind of get to a point where maybe this vomiting would stop enough to get me out of the house. And the way that our stairway is situated, they couldn't bring a stretcher in, so they had to use one of those chairs to get me out. They scoot me into the ambulance and off to the hospital I go, obviously right into a room. And unfortunately, it's shift change, so there's no doctor on staff. So the nurses are very much attending to me. I'm continuing to vomit. At this point, it's not as like violent, but it's still happening, and we can't get it under control. They don't know. They know that this bleeding is coming from some biopsy site or something in my stomach because of what we've been able to tell them. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. So long story short, they admit me to the hospital. They redo the procedure. They find a hemorrhage in my stomach. They staple it with multiple staples, and it's a hot mess. And I spent the weekend in the hospital, and that was pretty miserable as well. And a lot of why I'm telling the story is because it's relativity to the medicinal use of cannabis. And this hospital just wanted to push and push and push me to take pain meds, morphine, what's the other one? Norco, tramadol. Like, I'm like, I just want a Tylenol. I wanted an edible, is what I really wanted. But obviously, you're not going to get that there, and you're not going to mix some, I knew I couldn't bring an edible into the hospital. It just wasn't the situation to do that. But my goodness, like an entire 3 days of having no cannabis, feeling like hell. I was having what I think was my first, which is also another side effect of my condition, but another migraine. And this headache wouldn't go away. And so it was this vicious cycle of trying to keep my stomach calm and get my headache under control, and then them constantly trying to push the drugs. And then they would say, like, well, what do you do when you have headaches at home? Like, THC, that's what I do. Weed. And then they motion like, you smoke it? Like, well, yeah, And then there's this whole like kind of weird gray area of, I don't know that I want on my medical file, that I use cannabis, because I don't want my insurance to red flag me. Like, all of these conditions are because I use, in their eyes, a street drug or an illicit drug. And, so there's this weird gray area of, you don't want to tell that truth about how helpful cannabis is for your person. And so you're kind of hiding the truth about how you treat your own health. And finally, I think it was on Saturday, and I just said, as the nurse was saying, like, you're approved, we can give you Norco. And I'm like, I just don't want it. Well, you're not going to get addicted to it. I'm like, it is the point, but it's not the point. I don't think I'm going to get addicted to it. I'm not going to be taking it long enough. But I don't want it. I just don't want it in my body. And I finally just said to her, look, if I have a jar of Tylenol in my house, it's probably the smallest size available, and it's going to expire and be thrown in the garbage before I ever use what's in it. I just don't turn to pharmaceuticals. My choice is natural. My choice is supplements. My choice is cannabis. And that's the nurse that said, you smoke it? And she's like, I like gummies. Got gummies? So in a roundabout way, my point is just, all we can do is advocate for ourselves, and we're in this weird time with weed that we just, I don't know what you can and can't say when you're in a medical situation like that, but all I know at the end of the day is, could I have died? Yeah. Did I lose a lot of blood? Heck yeah. Was I in a really bad place? Yeah. And would cannabis have helped me in the healing process? Fuck yeah. Yes, it would. That's all I can say about it. It was a shitty situation. I have some recovery to do. I'm here.
You're fucking doing the show.
I'm feeling pretty good.
We were talking about maybe Mr. Weedman doing it solo tonight, and you're like, no, I think I can do it. I'm like, okay.
I was just shy of needing a blood transfusion. So doctors have said it'll take me probably about 8 weeks to get my blood levels back to where they should be. So going up a simple, flight of 4 or 5 stairs, I'm winded and my heart is throbbing like I ran a marathon. So I just have to really pace myself and slow down. Headaches are still coming and going because I haven't resumed using
Mr.
cannabis.
Weedman's been doing a lot of yelling at Mrs. Weedman because she doesn't listen. When
Stop
I
it. Stop moving. I swept today. He went out for a minute and I swept.
So mad.
I'm like, I have to sweep the floors. It's driving me nuts. So, yeah, it was quite a whirlwind of a weekend. Mr. Weedman was my saving grace. He was my strength in a really dark time and did just a phenomenal job taking care of me and my family. And now I'm getting him emotional, and I'll get emotional.
PTSD is real, everybody.
Yeah,
just so you know. If you think it's not, then you need to. I can't get it out of my head.
It was rough. Yeah, take a breath, Mr. Weedman. I'm here. See me?
I still got to do the show.
I'm here. So we have some recovery to do. Mentally, physically, spiritually. We got to get our shit back together. I'm a little stronger in these kind of times. Emotionally.
I'm hard-skinned, soft heart.
I think I'm the same. Am I a hard heart?
You're a little more firmer, I think.
I think I just have a different way of reacting. I have gone through enough in my life that my reaction is like, get to work and what do we need to do to fix it? And so let's get on to some lighter, better subjects.
Start the show, Mrs. Weedman?
I'm ready.
All
Let's
right.
start the show.
This is a big one by High Times. April 20th becomes a paid holiday for employees at a Massachusetts cannabis company. Hooray, hoorah. Go for this Massachusetts-based Temple Wellness, which owns 3 dispensaries in the state. I'm only giving them a shout out because I think it's cool. Recently announced that April 20th will be paid company holiday. We all know it being 420. Also my mom's birthday, by the way. She's the coolest birthday ever. I was born from a 420 woman. Never forget that, everybody. Okay? So I've had weed in my blood since day one. According to Chemical Wellness Director of Retail Customer Engagement, Cyan Leninger, the honors both cannabis culture as well as employees. 420 is a day to show appreciation, love, and respect for cannabis and its power to help amplify the health and happiness of the people experience in their daily lives. Leninger said in a press statement, "For us, it's a day to celebrate our employees whose passion, knowledge, and true dedication inspires their unparalleled service to our customers and our community all the other days of the year." They're going to be busy leading up until that day. The paid holiday extends to retail employees as well as production facilities. That's fucking huge. And corporate offices as well. Hooray for you. He also added that closing up shop on one of the biggest days of the year isn't as important as the well-being of their employees. One of the core company values is wellness, and that means the wellness of our customers, our community, and our entire team. While 420 is one of our most profitable days, we hope making it a paid holiday off for our team elevates as a day for everyone to celebrate cannabis and the community around it. I love it. The supplement, that April 20th holiday closure, is offering various price offers and its most comprehensive menu to date throughout the month of April. Yeah, that's huge. Do it. It's like everyone having off Christmas Day. You know, everybody should have off Christmas Day. Whether you celebrate Christmas Day or not, it just should be just a holiday that everybody just takes off and relax. This is great. You get to smoke a lot of weed. Hopefully a lot of the companies, cultivators that sell to your stores give you a bunch of free samples for your employees and for your employees at all the facilities, too, that work for you because they deserve to be able to smoke free weed that day, too, because they work their asses off. We all know it's one of the biggest selling days of the year. Am I for it or against it? I don't know. I just think I love this. I think everybody should have off. I always did big parties on 420, and I took people with me on a Monday. 420 landed on a Monday. You coming on the bus with me?
Oh, Mr. Weedman threw some fine 420 parties
for 8 years straight.
Yeah, legendary.
Oh, so good for you. I think that's just a round of applause and just standing ovation and just everything you can just say for your for Temsical Wellness and all of their employees. I think it's great. The cannabis community should be proud of that. So I think it should be a national holiday and everybody should have off. Cannabis users anyway. This is a good article too, Mrs. Weedman. Cannabis saved my kids, and and there's also a little bit of psychedelics too. So it's kind of cool. And there's a lot of buzz about psychedelics right now. A lot of states going to start medically, it's going to be pretty crazy time.
Well, they're going to start regulating. It's not regulated now.
Right. No, it's illegal. So,
Right.
But in states, they're going to start passing the laws to
allow
decriminalize it, to study it, to get it medical. So it's going to be pretty interesting. So go ahead and talk about Miss Heather Jackson.
Yeah. So this article is Cannabis Saved My Kid. Psychedelics Saved Me. Heather Jackson talks about taboo plant medicine. And this is a Benzinga article. What is the most powerful force in the world? Of course, it is love. But what kind of love? Not a single doubt, it is a parent's love for their children. One person, one mother that has proven this to be true is Heather Jackson, an international speaker, author, and published researcher. She is also the co-founder and president of the Realm of Caring Foundation, a cannabis-focused nonprofit that helps families struggling with life-limiting and chronic health conditions through research, education, and grants. Jackson's involvement in the cannabis sphere came unplanned. I'm a byproduct of the Just Say No 1980s. I've always believed that cannabis was probably bad for you, Jackson told Benzinga. Things changed when her son Zachy was diagnosed with a rare form of childhood epilepsy, which caused him to have hundreds of thousands of seizures, eventually leading him into hospice palliative care. Not only did prescription drugs not help his seizures, they produced a poor quality of life and long-term side effects that never went away, like cataracts and bone loss. What he needed was a daily dose of CBD, and his seizures stopped. I was definitely helpless, but I was never hopeless, Jackson said in an interview with the University of Colorado. Our job as a parent is to protect our child, but with this, there's nothing you can do. It's the worst feeling on the planet. After witnessing the healing power of CBD through Zachy's successful treatment, Jackson wanted to help other families dealing with similar issues. She co-founded the Realm of Caring Foundation with just 4 families in 2012. One of them is Paige Figge, the mother of Charlotte Figge, the young girl from Colorado who helped spread the word about the benefits of CBD for those suffering from rare forms of epilepsy. Charlotte became known worldwide after taking part in Dr. Sanjay Gupta's 2013 CNN documentary, Weed. Charlotte, who had Dravet syndrome, a type of epilepsy that caused her to have hundreds of seizures a day, finally found relief when her parents began treating her with medical cannabis. My mission is to reimagine the way we think, talk, and respond to plant medicine and the people who use it, Jackson said. Today, the Realm of Caring's network helps over 72,000 patients worldwide with all manner of conditions, from infants to people in their 90s. The organization, which facilitates acceptance of cannabinoid-based therapies, is committed to researching novel healthcare options and providing trusted resources to create support and build community. Jackson shared a testimony with Benzinga of a cannabis patient who was suffering from PTSD and found marijuana helpful. The person said, "At one time of my life, during the beginning stages of my admitting and seeking treatment for PTSD, I was taking so many prescription pills that it made me a zombie. After I started taking CBD oil, I slept like a baby regularly, which started alleviating most of my symptoms. I would much rather take this than the abundance of prescription medications any day." Heather is no stranger to healing power of other natural resources like psychedelics, too. When her son relapsed after several years of CBD therapy and his seizures started again, she developed PTSD. She began exploring natural options for herself. In 2016, I took a microdose of psilocybin with a guide in the woods and integrated with my therapist for months after, and my life has changed for the better ever since. After her positive experience with psychedelics, Jackson co-founded and became president of Unlimited Sciences, a psychedelic research nonprofit that relies on the power of real-world data to educate the community and seek common-sense policies on the use of psychedelics. With more than 30 million people trying psychedelics in the U.S. alone, the organization wants to access this knowledge, mitigate harm, and reduce stigma through education. To people who are interested in exploring psychedelics but are hesitant to try because of societal stigma, Jackson advises two things: education and a lot of preparation. The more you educate and prepare, the more likely you are to have a positive experience, she said. Jackson cautioned that psychedelics are illegal in all but a few locations in the U.S., which is why she suggests going to ketamine clinics. I was surprised about that. Though ketamine is not a traditional psychedelic, she recommends it as a good starting point, especially for people dealing with depression. You can also try to enroll in a trial or go to a retreat center with indigenous facilitators out of the country where you will not face prosecution, Jackson says. Get a good referral from someone you trust and always talk to your doctor. She cautioned that there are contradictions for minors and people with a history of seizures, heart, kidney, and liver problems, as well as women who are pregnant or breastfeeding. Some psychedelics are unsuitable while on SSRIs or mood stabilizers, and consumption is not recommended for individuals with certain mental health conditions like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, she added. Jackson stresses that when it comes to psychedelics, it's important to work with those with a professional and start at a low dose. Dosage will make a big difference in the effects and how you perceive what is happening within you and around you. You can always take more, you can never take less. Another important thing to be aware of is that occasionally unpleasant and unfamiliar, scary things can emerge. Familiarize yourself with the 4 methods of integration, the synthesis of the mind and body, following the experience. Last summer, Unlimited Sciences conducted an observational research study with a group of immigrants and refugees who took part in an ayahuasca ceremony. One participant said, "It allowed me to rewrite certain narratives that I've had for so long, and it allowed me to revisit some past memories so suppressed that I didn't even know I had them. It was very therapeutic, and it was very healing." However, Jackson makes it clear that these substances are not for everyone and that people should be educated so they can make their own decisions with their doctors. So what's next for cannabis and psychedelics? Jackson thought that cannabis would be federally legal by now, but progress seems to be 2 steps forward and 1 step back. What I would like to see is more individualized medicine in cannabis, where the consumer comes first and the products are easily accessible. As for psychedelics, Jackson acknowledged that the space is attracting more financial investment to support drug development. She said she hopes that those who are building the industry today will not forget those who came before. These substances have a long-standing indigenous use and intelligence, and we cannot fail to pay it back, to recognize and elevate the indigenous voice. I hope decriminalization continues because no one should be in jail for possessing or consuming nature.
I like that.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Let's see. Wait, we got some time here. Eating weed versus drinking weed. You can eat your edibles and drink them too. Although weed gummies have long dominated the edibles market, a new cannabis-derived product is surging in popularity. THC drinks. From 2019 to 2022, sales of cannabis beverages increased by 40%, making beverages one of the fastest-growing segments on the cannabis market. Grandview Research estimates by 2025, the global cannabis beverage market will be worth $2.8 billion. That's fucking pretty big in such a short period of time. This still represents only a small fraction of the total cannabis market, however. Still, $2.8 billion for just drinks. That's a pretty good market to get into. The impressive rate of growth represents a huge opportunity for expansion. What's the buzz all about? Why do people love drinking cannabis? I like drinking a good cannabis drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a few
It's
good
just another
ones.
fun way to consume.
Yeah, socialize. It's like going to drink a beer. You have
And most of them are like
2 to 5
5
milligrams,
milligrams,
2.5 milligrams, 5 milligrams, which I kind of like. 'Cause that means you can drink. For me, I could drink 4 or 5 2.5 milligrams
if you pace them out
If you
over
pace
a
them
long
out,
time.
yeah. If you drink one every like 30 minutes,
Mhm.
hell yeah. So that's only basically 10, 15 milligrams. That's nothing, for me, So edibles are cannabis products that consume and gain the benefits of THC. We all know that. There's different kinds of edibles. We've talked about this, but benefits of THC drinks, though, I kind of like. THC drinks provide fast-acting effects that you'll feel within 15 to 30 minutes, which gives you greater control over the psychoactive experience if you eat than eating gummies, which take longer to take effect. Yeah, but there's fast-acting gummies now, too, that are taking about 15 minutes, too. And most gummies, if you get really good distillate gummies or stuff that's made correctly, you can get them within in 30 minutes, and it all depends on your metabolism, too.
Yeah.
So
And what you've eaten.
yeah, what you eating, too. So if you're sipping a THC drink and feel like you're coasting an enjoyable level, you can stop drinking. Just like drinking a beer. Stop drinking when you feel a little buzzed. Alternatively, though, if you're not feeling much, you have an option to drink more to elevate your experience, of course. Because you could sip THC drinks all night long, they provide a more enduring experience functioning as social beverages. In fact, many people use THC drinks as an alternative to alcohol. 100%. Like I said, I like them. I think they're fucking fun. They're great. Instead of drinking beer and gaining weight, you're drinking a seltzer with THC in it, So yeah, great THC drinks. Here's something really cool. I never thought I'd see this happen in my lifetime. Medical cannabis bill passes in good old state of Kentucky. Kentucky. Member of the Kentucky Senate Committee recently approved the medical cannabis legalization bill.
We love Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, great. One of my favorite cities. Love it. So much fun there. So good for you, Kentucky. I might move down there. Got to call my friend Hobie and find out what's going on. Maine officials against cannabis social clubs. Boo. Boo. Texans want easier access to cannabis. Of course, they've wanted easier access to cannabis for a long time. Come on now. Minnesota cannabis bill gets rewrite as it continues to advance through legislature. Come on. This should be done already. New York employers are trying to adapt to the reality of legal adult use cannabis. Why? People have been using cannabis even when it wasn't legal. You don't have to adapt to nothing. Just you didn't catch them. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's proposal to legalize recreational use of cannabis has a strong chance to pass in the state legislature if a dispute over private versus state-run systems for sales can be resolved, several state lawmakers said. All right, we'll see. Good luck. Arkansas. Good old medical cannabis Arkansas. $4.2 million in only 38 dispensaries in the first 2 years. Good old Arkansas.
Yeah.
That's dope. Georgia House passes bill to increase medical cannabis licenses. I just don't understand why you're just not medical, period. Like the whole state, medical dispensaries. Come on, Georgia. Let's go. What else? New York, there's a coalition of I don't know, corporate cannabis. I don't want to say their names. But fighting now because they didn't get any dispensary licenses. So they put a lawsuit. Same thing that happened here. You can think of all the companies that are in Illinois that kept on doing that. So the same in New York. So it might hold up some stuff for a minute. We'll see. Just let them go to court, but don't stop the train. You got to open up these 350 now. After cannabis, medical marijuana bill, cannabis bill stalls in Senate. Governor urges to pursue lawmakers for action in Kansas. Good old Dorothy and Toto. Going to be getting some weed soon. Better happen. We'll see. All right. When I read this number, I kind of knew it was a lot, but I did not know it was this much money spent. Wisconsin residents spent over $121 million on cannabis at Illinois retailers in 2022.
Oh, shit.
Exactly.
Wisconsin, you're losing money.
That's what I said.
Dummies.
That's what I said. I was like, no fucking... I mean, I kind of knew. I kind of had like
That's in
around.
general sales or just tax?
No, that's sales.
Sales.
Spent over $120 million,
Shit.
and 36 million of that is and contributing to about 36 million in tax revenue to the state.
To the state of Illinois. Hey, how about
And I
that?
don't even know where the fuck that money's going. All the money that Illinois is making off the tax, I still don't know. I mean, I know I've seen the list, but I've never seen actual dollars go there.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just like Wisconsin. I said this. I said this to somebody about Wisconsin. I said, "You have great." Oh, on the last.
We love Wisconsin.
Yeah, I love Madison. Oh,
I love Milwaukee and Madison.
Big Earl and I interviewed a guy, a gentleman yesterday, and his name is John. And the company that manufactures their product he sells is from Madison, Wisconsin. So I went on. I said, I just in shock that Wisconsin's not even medical yet.
Yeah.
And they have such great soil
All the
up there.
farmers and
They have such great
farmland,
soil. And I said, I love Madison. I said, I would probably move there in a heartbeat if it went medical up there.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
And I would try to get into the market of doing something with cannabis up there because we like it up there a lot. And it's just so beautiful.
Rolling hills.
121 million.
Come on, Wisconsin. They're giving away their money.
So stupid. I mean,
Yeah, but that's
come on.
I mean, if you think about it, it's the neighboring states to legal states that is a story.
But
that
Missouri.
but it's a story that can be repeated in many states that are illegal, that have a neighboring
I
state
understand,
that's legal.
but here
You're
I'll give you
losing money.
I'll give you a perfect example. Missouri just went recreational, and in the first month between rec and med, they did 120 million in 1 month.
Right.
They're being the fastest to $1 billion.
Missouri.
Missouri's gonna be the fastest to $1 billion. The way they're on track,
Wow.
because you have all those states that aren't
Right.
around them.
Right.
On top of it, and no one's going to come to Illinois anymore. And Wisconsin, I love your state. That's the problem, and it just dumbfounds me how many jobs that has employed here in Illinois, how many jobs you can now bring to your state that people need.
Mm-hmm.
It's just foolish. You Democrats and Republicans, you all suck. And I don't care who listens, and if you're, I don't care, because every fucking state government, and I don't even want to get into it. You all suck up there because it's not about you. Let your constituents vote on it, and I bet you it'll pass med pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Did I get a little angry?
I think you got a little feisty.
A little hot.
Yeah.
Because I
You
want to
all right?
move there. There's a lot of good land up there. Good soil.
Mm-hmm.
Cannabis legalized in New Hampshire by House vote without restrictions. What's in the bill? Mrs. Weedman, do you know? I know. What's in the bill? The bill was sponsored by Republican Kevin Veriville, aims to remove cannabis from the state's list of prohibited substances. Veriville credited the bill's short length and simplicity for helping it pass. Great. Keep it simple. Not stupid, because I don't believe everybody's stupid. Keep it simple, silly.
Yeah, that's a nicer way of saying it.
Keep it simple, silly. Nobody's stupid out there. There's no stupid questions and there's no stupid answers. There's just questions and answers. I don't believe anybody's stupid. When bills, except for the Republicans and
there might be a
Democrats,
couple people.
especially except for the Republicans and Democrats that aren't voting to make sure cannabis passes in their state.
Dummies.
This is the shortest, easiest way to affect the change that the majority of our constituents want, and that legalization of cannabis. In addition to removing criminal penalties for cannabis-related offenses, the bill also includes a provision for records for people with prior cannabis convictions or pending cases. Good for you, New Hampshire. I like that state. It's one state I don't think I've ever been to yet, and we'll go now.
All right.
Yeah,
Let's go.
you're weird.
I know.
You're so weird.
I've come to that conclusion.
We have a weird dog
Yeah, because we're weird people.
because we're weird people, but we have
Weird in a good way.
yes. Oh yeah, I'm a nerd, weirdy nerd.
We're just weirdos.
But how do you keep weed words weird?
This is actually a fun article. Keep weed words weird. Why it's important to preserve our stoner vocabulary. And this is written by Mary Jane Gibson, and she's with High Times. And this is written in first person. I started working at High Times as a proofreader in 2007. My friend Natasha, also known as Vaporella, was the managing editor, and she knew I was looking for some extra cheddar. So I was stoked to have a reason to visit the storied offices of High Times at 419 Park Avenue in New York City, where the staff smoked weed every day on the fire escape and didn't trust anyone who wouldn't smoke with them. You had to fail a drug test to work at High Times, the story went. They were all suspicious of anyone new, but Natasha's word was gold, and once we'd all gotten stoned together at a staff retreat in the Catskills, I felt like part of the family. The bulk of my work duties were laid out in High Times Style Guide, a document designed to help writers, editors, and proofreaders get a grip on the magazine's iconic style, preserving the varied voices of its writers while remaining consistent in things like punctuation and capitalization. There was also a lot to look for in every issue: abbreviations, fraction styles and recipes, numerals versus numbers, scientific names. For instance, at the time, indica and sativa were always italicized. I combed through the tiny print of dozens of pages with my red pen, marking up every straight apostrophe or single quotation mark I found. But the thing that appealed to my word geekiness the most was the vocabulary section of the guide. It was a window into the heart of stoner culture, from the magazine that had largely defined it for decades. Long-haired versus long hair. Root-bound was hyphenated. NFT stood for nutrient film technique. WOA. Bong hit was always 2 words, while bong load and bong water were 1. I made a joke about bong water being 1 word on a Zoom call with a scholastic director recently, and it didn't go over so well. The slightly bemused expression on the professor's face indicated that it would be wise for me to stick to using academic language during our conversation. I managed to stay on topic after my little gaffe, and we had a very interesting talk about cannabis and her work, but it got me thinking about the words we use for weed. When I was proofreading at High Times all those years ago, it was still acceptable to talk about smoking dope. In some cases, it was usually an older writer reminiscing about the 60s. We used the marijuana way more often than we did cannabis, and pot, not weed, was the go-to term for the plant. That all may seem outdated now, but it's important to preserve that vocabulary and the cultural knowledge that goes along with it. There are hundreds of incredible words to describe weed, and many that have been weaponized against the plant and the community. Reefer, grass, ganja, chronic, devil's lettuce, sinsemilla? Sinsemilla?
You're definitely not a 70s smoker.
Well, I would have been like 5.
I knew that word because of my dad, Poppy. Oh. That's what he used to call it. And
wacky tobacco. Zaza, trees, chiba, catnip, skunk. It's a rich and wild and wonderful lexicon in which every term links to a specific moment or thing, like the origin of the story of 420. Russ Belville wrote an interesting rant about the use of the word marijuana several years ago, pushing back against the idea that the word is racist. Quote, I can't tell you how many times I've heard some variation of that statement from well-meaning people in the drug reform movement, unquote, Belville wrote. But not only is that claim invalid, it's rhetorically dangerous to use. The argument is that marijuana conjures up so many negative frames to some people, from Cheech and Chong, munchies, Vietnam, hippies, liberals, that we're better off using cannabis, which in the United States won't carry that baggage. Unfortunately, militantly insisting on using cannabis over marijuana presents its own set of rhetorical dangers. So, it's a great piece, and I encourage you to read the whole thing. Belville uses both terms to refer to the plant. His distinction is that he grows cannabis and he smokes marijuana, which honestly I love, especially because my name is the angelicized version of marijuana. Remember, her name is Mary, right? It's an old family name, and I just got lucky. Preserving our wacky weed vocabulary is important to me because I love words and their history, and also because I loathe when cannabis brands run by venture capitalists try to distance themselves from the stoner community. I wrote about one such company, which went by the name Genius, laugh out loud, for Rolling Stone. Part of the mission of Genius, according to a press release announcing the opening of a flagship store on Melrose Avenue, was to veer away from the stoner culture as a luxury cannabis brand. The company went bust after their tech bros in charge blew through $164 million in funding from a Russian oligarch who ended up dead. It's a wild story, and you should read about that too. Anyway, that veering away from the stoner culture didn't work out, and it never will. Along with medical marijuana movement and drug reform activists, stoner culture is the reason we have legal cannabis in 19 states. Of course, we need to use academic language to be taken seriously by lawmakers, but we've got a million other ways to talk about the plant, and it doesn't always need to be so dang humorless. I have a great time doing it on my mostly silly, sometimes serious podcast. And remember, when you're texting your roomie to freshen up the bong water for tonight's sesh, that is one word, not two. If you know, you know. It's cute.
I think it was a great article, especially the part where she went into about calling it marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
because we might fall into that a little bit. You know, our agenda, we use this platform to try to help stomp the stigma of cannabis,
right,
and just talk about the truths of it. And we have tried to stay away from the word marijuana because of its derogatory associations. But I understand there is a place. There's certain articles where I don't take it out because
we've also read that the versions, the way it was spelled,
mixed.
But the way it was spelled,
yes,
the way you spell it too is the way the 1937 Marijuana Tax Act was spelled versus the way it was actually really
with an
said.
H versus a J.
Yes. So
right.
when I talk about marijuana, it's the J.
Right.
You know, all the time. So, but I like it. You grow cannabis, you smoke, but I always say I smoke weed.
Yeah.
So I smoke weed. You know, I talk about cannabis all the time as the plant.
And I think part of my personal reason for switching it over to cannabis is, in a sense, because there's so much negative connotation to all the other words.
But you're also we're talking about the plant.
Yes,
most of the time.
Right.
So that's why we call it cannabis. I'm talking about the plant.
Right.
If I'm talking about smoking weed, I'm talking about weed.
Right. Yes. But in the reference of just the word in general, I tend to swap it over to cannabis because there's just so much derogatory energy. It's just like a loaded word when you say marijuana or you say weed and you say pot.
The people who are still against it or still are unknowledgeable about it, we use the word cannabis because it sounds more ethical. It sounds like you're talking about a plant, not just, hey, I'm smoking the devil's lettuce. We're really
it's because of all the stigma, the past stigmas.
And we're trying to fight this stigma and trying to stop it. And this article, I always say this podcast is about education. I'm trying to learn all the time, and I'm not perfect. I've said it 1,000 times, and this helped me learn something and not to be afraid of using the word marijuana.
Right.
It's great.
And I've talked about, I've been a consistent smoker for about 10 years now.
Actually, no, 13
Is
now.
it that long? All right, 13. And prior to that, it was a little here and a little there. And I hung out with a lot of people that were really serious stoners.
You hung out with some fucking stoners.
Some real stoners throughout my life. But I just never really kind of like all encompassed the culture of it. And was never against it. It just, I don't know, it wasn't a huge part of my life. I didn't really understand cannabis. I thought it was a drug that was bad because that's what I was
We're a part of the
educated to
We're
think.
A part of the DARE
program
system from high school.
Yeah. So
that's what we're a part of.
Like Mr. Weedman said, maybe me more so than him because his dad talked about it a lot while he grew up and
he was a midnight toker.
And my dad was a smoker that I've learned. My dad was a smoker when he used to walk the dog. He literally had dog walkers. He smoked a joint while he walked the dog.
Smart man.
I didn't know.
Smart man.
So anyway, we're all learning. We're all exploring cannabis together. And our agenda is not to make anybody angry or make anybody overly happy. We hope that we help people just learn in general.
Because we're learning.
We like to make you happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't want to make you angry.
Nope.
But we do really want to help you learn. And we want ourselves to learn as well.
100%. Mrs. Weedman, you only got 2 articles tonight because we just slowed it down a little bit. Are you winded?
I'm winded. I am, actually.
I'm taking over. International news, everybody. Taliban leader bans cannabis cultivation in Afghanistan. How could you do this? I mean, it's like Afghanistan is part of the history, like been around, and I mean, come on. Violators will be punished according to the decree by Taliban leader Hibutullah Zada. The Taliban has announced a ban on the cultivation of hemp or cannabis in Afghanistan. Taliban leader issued an official order on Sunday saying the cultivation of cannabis is prohibited across the country, and in case of violation, the plantation will be destroyed and violators would be punished according to Sharia law rules. Cultivation in the whole country is completely banned, and if anyone grows them, the plantation will be destroyed. The courts have also been ordered to punish the violators per Sharia law's statement reads. Cannabis is one of the most produced crops by farmers across the country. It has been for a very long time. And Afghanistan became its top supplier in 2010, according to the UN. Cannabis resin produced in Afghanistan has not only been found in neighboring regions, but also in the Middle East and parts of Central and Eastern Europe, as well as Central Asia and Caucasus, per the UN report. The report highlights that Afghanistan is the second country mostly reported after Morocco as the origin sees cannabis resin worldwide. Hashish. For years, Afghanistan has been the world's largest producer of opium, a paste extracted from poppies. We know what that goes into, too. So, as per UNODC, the current contraction of legit economic opportunities makes households even more vulnerable to engage in illicit activities such as cannabis cultivation. According to a report, Afghanistan income from opiates in the amount of some 1.8 to 2.7 billion in 2021. It further says the much larger money are accumulated along illicit drug supply chains outside Afghanistan. Man, that's fucked up. Come on now. It's time for them to really realize it's been part of your history, and it's not. Come on, they didn't. This whatever you believe in this world, whatever you believe in this world. I mean, this plant was put on here for a reason. In Afghanistan, you can actually be a top producer of the best hash in the universe. You've been doing it for a very long time. Germany likely to legalize. Now, we've been talking a lot about Germany over the last couple of years, and health minister indicates that legalization will proceed. The German health minister has indicated that adult use legalization will move forward in the European country. Reported marijuana moment. Minister Karl Lauterbach said on Tuesday that he has received very good feedback from the European Commission and expects his bill to be formally presented in the next few weeks. We'll soon present a proposal that works and that it conforms to European law, Minister Lauterbach said. Throughout the lobbying process, the minister has indicated that his efforts aim to improve public health in Germany. Regulating adult use cannabis. In 2022, the federal cabinet of Germany adopted a preliminary outline for legalization legislation. Still, the government required EU approval, which they gave them kind of like the thumbs up. Under the government's soon-to-be revised proposal, which is currently only a 12-page framework and an actual legislation, adults 18 and older. If you could vote and you can go into war for this country and get drafted by the military at 18, you should be able to smoke a little herb. And you can possess up to 30 grams of cannabis from establishments with federal licenses, potentially including pharmacies. That's cool. Moreover, they may raise up to 3 plants on their own. Hell yeah. Oh, man, Germany. That's awesome. Good for you. Now I want to go to their country and smoke somebody's weed. And have a good beer. John Singleton, a baseball player, is saying Marijuana Moment wrote this, deserves an apology from Major League Baseball for his cannabis suspensions. Professional athletes should be measured by their competitive abilities and the content of their character. They should never be measured by the presence of cannabis or marijuana in their system. Unfortunately, many professional athletes over the years were subject to the latter. One of those athletes is first baseman John Singleton, who was, after serving multiple suspensions for cannabis use and being out of the Major League Baseball in recent years, is now mounting an inspiring comeback. In addition to receiving a second chance at a professional career in baseball, Singleton should be also afforded the long overdue apology that he was subjected to by the league. He was drafted by the Philadelphia Phillies in the 8th round in 2009, fresh out of high school at the time. He was traded later to the Houston Astros, where he was considered by Major League Baseball analysts to be the rising star. However, in 2018, he was dropped by the Astros, and his return to the big league seemed unlikely. Well, now he's got a shot, and I do believe that Major League Baseball should apologize as part of the MLB punishment for his second offense, because he's had multiple games, 50-game suspensions, 100-game suspensions for smoking cannabis, smoking marijuana. So, Let's see here. Fortunately, Singleton is pursuing a career in professional baseball, having signed a minor league contract with Milwaukee Brewers last year. He played at least a season at AAA. Nice. Nashville, where he excelled. Hit 24 home runs and 87 RBIs. And batted 375. That's good stuff. So hopefully he gets back in. Hopefully they move him up through the ranks this year. Talented ball player that smoked a little marijuana, right?
Yep.
Crazy. So, but it didn't hurt his...
It didn't hurt his skills or put him at any advantage.
His talent or his athletic ability at all.
Well, and aren't, drugs in the sports arena all about them potentially advancing a person's abilities? Cannabis is not going to, advance you.
It's great
like
off the field when you need to go relax.
It's going to help your body repair.
Yeah, recover. Recovery is key.
Doesn't make you a stronger, better player.
Right. Well,
it's going to make you not in the way that the steroids would do.
Some people I heard have taken it before game, before they go out in the field because of their anxiety, and it helped relax them enough because they were so high up, too high energy, too just too much to where they would have burned out quickly. So we just brought them back down to the level, brought them normal,
right?
And they were able to excel because their anxiety level is done. So I think it's if someone wants to use it, after the game, 4 hours before the game, whatever they want. I don't think it's, whatever. Test some people out in the baseball field. Put somebody that just had just like a puff of a joint. And watch them maybe rock 3 or 4 out of the field. Might be quite impressed. Mrs. Weedman?
Mr. Weedman?
I'm not even going to ask you if you got anything else to say. I think you've said enough.
Okay, fine.
No, I'm
Be
just
that
kidding.
way.
I'm just kidding. I just don't want you to talk too much.
He's so worried about me being tired.
I'm very.
Yeah.
So everybody out there in the world, we love you. Ms. Weedman?
Mr. Weedman?
Man.
We got this.
We got it.
We got it.
And I didn't force her to do the show tonight, everybody. Because she wanted to do the show. I was going to do it by myself. I know how not tired, but I know her body is not where it needs to be. And I said, don't do the show tonight if you don't want to. I got this. So here's the thing. You can't keep a good person or a good woman down, a strong woman down.
That's right.
Because she kicks ass, takes names, and she doesn't fucking stop, even when she's like beat up. I had to tell her like 10 times in the last 24 hours, will you just fucking sit down and relax? You just got out of the hospital.
I have been sitting.
Yeah, straight up, not relaxing.
Right.
Like I said,
I've got work to do.
Like I said, you can't stop a thick-headed, as my dad would call her, a thick-headed woman. But she's also a badass. So
Thanks, Mr.
I
Weedman.
love you, Mrs. Weedman.
You're a pretty big badass yourself.
I love you, Mrs. Weedman.
I love you, Mr. Weedman.
And I'm glad you're still with me.
Me too.
We got a lot more shows to do for everybody out there in the world, and a lot more to see, and a lot more weed to smoke.
That's right. I
So-
can't wait to smoke again.
I know Friday is going to be a celebration. Maybe
Party.
we'll post it on Instagram or something. I don't know. Make a little video about it. Hey, everybody out there in the world, we love you. Thanks for listening. Peace be with you all. We need some peace. We need some love. We need some kindness. We need some soft hearts. Stop being so pig-headed and hard-hearted. Get the soft heart going.
Become a softie.
Yeah, it makes a better world. Everybody out there in the world, as Paulie always says, smoke smart, puffing away.
Puff, puff now.